But hi, everyone. I'm Samantha with the NVLD project. We are excited to have you all joining us today or later if you're watching this at a later time. Excited to talk to you guys a little bit about the Lemle Clinic today. I know there's lots of questions out there, so we hope that we can answer all of those for you. The clinic is located at Yeshiva University in the Bronx in New York City. Our founder, Dr. Laura Lemle, is the lead donor for the clinic, so it has been named the Lemle Clinic. And with us today, we have Dr. Greg Inzinna, who is the clinic coordinator, and he's going to talk a little bit more about what the clinic is going to offer, who it's going to offer those services for, and then answer any other questions that we've received previously by email. Or if you weren't able to send me an email prior to this, please feel free to drop those questions into the comment box below, and we'll either answer those live during our chat today, or we'll come back and answer them at a later time if you are watching this as a recording. So again, I'm Samantha with the NVLD project, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Greg Inzinna and let him kind of talk a little bit about this exciting new clinic.
Thank you for the introduction, and I look forward to talking about the clinic. Good to meet everyone, even though I can't see you. But I do hope to get to some of your questions. If I could just say some stuff about the clinic, we are definitely located in the Bronx, and we have a location at the Russo building in Morris Park. And we can probably post some of those details on the website. But for the most part, we treat people of all ages. Our focus is with individuals who have NVLD. And so the clinic is formed from obviously a community that is in need of services. There's been a lot of outreach since our first post. We are recording. It's all good. So we got a lot of outreach since our first social media post, and that makes a lot of sense because we have been hearing about from the community, from other clinicians about the need. So I want to frame my questions and the answers around those things. We are a student-run clinic, so we have graduate students who serve the community, and we do this at a really low cost. That's how we're able to do it. They're all supervised by licensed psychologists and licensed providers. So I supervise some of the students, and we actually have a practicum class specifically devoted to NVLD that is taught by somebody who is an expert in the field and being trained by other experts in the field as the domain NVLD develops. So we have a lot going on and a lot of excitement around this in both therapy and assessment. The assessment piece and the therapy piece really go hand in hand because still folks are wondering exactly where they fit on the spectrum of what NVLD means and where they can learn how their specific diagnosis is going to be treated and how therapy can specifically help where they're struggling, right? So assessment is usually just focuses on, maybe 3-4 sessions of intensive testing. And usually this is extremely expensive, right? Usually this is like $5,000 to $10,000 that you can spend on a huge testing battery. Here we're charging a few $100s, and for therapy, a similar thing where people at the clinic will pay anywhere from $1 to $50 based on financial need, right? So we're a clinic that is part of the Yeshiva University mission in the Bronx, which has been there for a while, to serve the community and to serve the community at a low cost, right? So part of that is, and I'm looking at some of the questions here about, how to actually go about getting these services. Obviously, I've said the Bronx a few times. We do have virtual and online therapy, but there's a lot of research and a lot of the things that we know about therapy that support in-person therapy, especially for NVLD. So we are leaning in the direction and encouraging people to be able to come in person, but obviously, even if you live in New York, that's not always possible. So we work with people on an individual basis. You know, maybe even sometimes we can do a session in person and then do a few more sessions online, things like that. We also have, I mean, to speak to just the people who are concerned about out of state therapy, the options are somewhat limited because there are pretty strict guidelines that Yeshiva University has. Uh, Typically, we ask people to, if they live close enough to commute to the Bronx from another state, that they come in. Otherwise, even trying to do virtual therapy from a part of New York is not going to fit the requirement of being a resident of New York State if you're going to do telehealth. So that is a bit of a tough guideline to work around. And you know, I saw a question here also for travel expenses. I mean, I think that's a great idea if we could figure out a way to help people with travel expenses, or even figuring out a way to get here. That would be something that would be great in the future. We don't have any plan for that right now, but I do think that we were also exploring this a little bit, that therapy, if it is going to be telehealth, but someone does want to come in person, that part of the therapy can be to help someone go through that, and getting on the subway or using public transportation or figuring that out. So if you can be, if you are a resident of New York State, any part of New York State, right, we can try to figure out a way to make that work. Yeah, a few other questions that look like, what services we provide. I mean, one distinction I just want to make is that we're not here to treat NVLD in a way that is going to get rid of NVLD, right? It's NVLD-informed therapy, right? So this is therapy to deal with the life problems and all of the things that are going on in life in the context of NVLD, right? And so the way it's informed by that is to say, okay, well, what are those particular problems, and how do our current treatments not really work with this population, right? And so how can we adapt it, right? And that's why we have Dr. Mariah DeSorsi, who is running the practicum course, who works with Amy Margolis, a leading researcher in the field, and they are doing presentations with us and working with us on practicums and didactics to help us understand exactly how we can adapt it. I mean, doing everything from showing us literal changes in manuals that we can look at, or problems to avoid, showing things with like doing an exposure exercise, for example, in really crowded visual spaces is probably not a good idea, right? So things like that is how it's going to be different. Another question kind of in that vein about how executive functioning support is going to be different from support offered with ADHD. Well, it's going to include all those kind of adaptations, right? Adaptations that importantly have to be and are able to be made in an academic setting, right? Something where we're being really creative and thoughtful about how to do that, and in the context of really good supervision, right? So all these things are kind of going on. They're exciting. I want to stop talking though, and I want to kind of open the floor and maybe get some other questions, or Sam, if you want to steer us in any direction. Sam, I don't think we can hear you.
I muted myself and then I started talking. Let me log on to the Facebook and see if there are any questions coming in to the comments here. Let's see, let me refresh this. I don't see any on there so far. It's very quiet today, but that's okay. I think, could you speak to, I know that we have parents that are always kind of reaching out, and the parents are looking for help. Are there any services for parents of children with NVLD to help them kind of learn how to help their students or their children manage it?
Sure. Well, our students are really used to consulting with parents and
Okay,
teachers and schools and all that stuff. Some of our students actually are used to going to schools
okay,
and providing services there or consulting with teachers and things like that. My background is in schools as well and working with parents. So we have training that exists for that. And as we grow the clinic, we will definitely have some kind of incorporation of, utilizing parent work, either, I've called it child family team meetings, that we do
okay.
every like once a month sometimes, but yes, I mean, inevitably all this will include supporting parents, and at least giving resources to help them in the actual context of their lives. I mean, a lot of the therapy that we're going to be doing is building skills for how to be independent outside of therapy, right? So parents and the context of the child is, an integral part of that.
Awesome. And then when we're talking about that, we keep talking about kind of like students in school, but are you guys accepting, I guess, are you accepting people that are young adults? What is kind of your age range of what that looks like?
Yeah, so we don't have a limit on the age range, right?
Okay,
So this is about neurodivergence. People with NVLD can come uh, across us at an age, but typically I think it makes sense that people who are struggling in school come in, because they're going through some hurdles and maybe need for testing or assessment. It's accommodations for therapy. It might be, struggling social emotionally, and a lot of times by the time someone makes it to adulthood, they've already found a way to cope with what's going on. So we have, at least I've seen people who, with increasing awareness, have sought out assessment as adults, to say, wow, what's going on here. But yeah, that's why we keep kind of going back to the language
yeah,
of children and adolescents, but really it is everybody and anyone.
okay, amazing. And then, oh, I just lost it.
When we talked about ages, we talked about, yeah.
Do they have to have an assessment or testing done at the clinic to receive additional services, or can they come with their own test that they've had done, or do they need to have a test at all?
Great question. I'd say great question because we've been, with the first few therapy cases, we've been coming across that exact thing, right? A
Okay,
variety of situations. So, no, you don't need to have previous testing done.
okay,
The way that, and this is for therapy, right? So, the way that, like, obviously, you don't need previous testing done to get an assessment. But to get therapy, there are some kind of criteria that we want people to meet, because we do want to serve the NVLD community, right? So there's screener questions and an intake process that basically takes 2 to 3 sessions to determine the right direction to go. That's a typical kind of like model for any clinic. You go meet the therapist, learn what the best direction is, and if the clinic is not the right fit, then we always provide good referrals and things like that. And we have another student-run clinic at Yeshiva that we can always refer to, and they can refer to us. So it can work out like that.
okay. Perfect. I am starting to see just a couple questions come in on Facebook. I do have a question of, is there any outreach to schools envisioned? I know we a little bit kind of talked on that as far as like with the
Yeah.
parents, and I'm not sure if we can dig any more into that right now, but can you answer that in any capacity?
Yeah, I mean, it's the schools are definitely where a lot of the demand is. Right now, we don't need much more demand though. We need to grow the clinicians and the practicum, and the availability, before we do that. But absolutely, that's inevitably going to be part of the plan. I've worked in a lot of schools, and I've talked to um, a few practices that also kind of work with the community and people in school. So there's definitely going to be a lot of excitement and involvement from schools once we do that. It's something I think that we're looking forward to later this year.
Amazing. And then let me see if there's anything else that we've missed. I think we've covered the majority of the questions that I've received by email, and so far in the comments. I will be answering those emails, just letting them see sending them a copy of the recording so that they can see it, and kind of watch and get their answers. And then if you are watching this as a recording on YouTube or Facebook later, you can again drop those questions into the comment section and we will answer those as they come in. I think that's really it. This is a pretty short and sweet one, really just a Q&A to get more information about the clinic out there. What would be the best way for anybody that's interested in these services to reach out and get a hold of or get in touch with someone to get more information and kind of start that process?
Sure. So again, we can maybe drop it in the chat or something,
Absolutely.
but right now we only have email, lemleclinic@hushmail.com. But we are going to expand to having, a phone number and people you can talk to. Again, part of the beginning stages were just to see what the demand and what the need
Absolutely.
would be. So we'll get more than the email, but for now, the email is best. You can expect to hear back within like a week or 2 weeks. It's really, I mean, we want to get back to everyone, and we also want to be realistic and about what we can promise. So
Absolutely. Yes. I'll
yeah,
drop that email into the comments below as well for anybody that is looking to reach out, to either get more information or start that process of getting in touch with the clinic. So if we don't have any other questions, we'll keep this pretty short and sweet tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to come on and chat with us and just kind of explain a little bit more about what is going on. And I look forward to talking to you again here in the future. Maybe we'll do another one here in a couple months if we've got anything different to talk about.